So, welcome to Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity. My name is Adele Bernard, your host, and today I'm excited to introduce Crystal Kaufman from Step by Step Business Solutions for our conversation. So, welcome.
Thanks, Adele. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we'll just back it up a bit for a second. Like we did meet through a powerful organization of Grow Your Biz through Barbara Mowat.
Mowat, yeah.
Mowat. I always say her name wrong. But anyways, that's where we met, and I'm very grateful. And so, like all of us, we're how do we redefine who we are? How do we go from where we used to be? Like, because as we've talked before, we both used to be corporate, then corporate wasn't working for us. We say, okay, well, our spirit's saying something else. So how do we do this entrepreneurship? So how did Step by Step Solutions, Business Solutions get born?
Well, to tell you the truth, I feel like it was a 2x4 from the universe that just smacked me into it. And it was
I can relate.
it wasn't on my mind at all. I really honestly, at the time, it was 2014. I felt like, oh, I had made it. I'm in corporate, security, safety, all the things that society says, what is successful, the definition of success. And it was to get a good job at a big company and, dress up every day and, like have the office and the parking spot. And it just felt like everything crumbled when I was laid off in the big oil crash here in our province. And there was just no other jobs. And I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. I have a son to feed and roof to put over our head, and I had to figure it out. And the universe just felt like it just gave me this sign, like, you got to figure this out. And there was no other jobs to have. I tried to apply, nothing was coming. So literally I resorted to, I'm like, whatever it takes just to get $100, $200, whatever it was. Scrubbed toilets, I built Excel spreadsheets, helped with some Christmas invitations, like anything. Like I just did part-time stuff for random people. And thus the entrepreneur spirit in me was born. And it wasn't something I dreamt of or planned for. It was just smack, here you go, figure it out. And that's how it started.
Well, and it's interesting you said that, because that was kind of my introduction into building Transition Clarity, was because the crash, we're in the same province of Alberta. Alberta is very strong in the oil and gas. And, when you think of like 30% of the population of a province ended in unemployment.
Yep.
Right. But we also are a kindred spirit of like, we weren't really liking climbing the corporate ladder anyway. And so it was, yes, as hard as it was, the 2x4 is very hard. The signs were coming before. Both weren't listening in our both respective areas. But it's like, wasn't it like now you're starting to, you have your different clients, right? Like not toilets, but travel or whatever, right? And you're just like, now you're soaring. And that's what I'm saying about like with these conversations, is like, are you on the right path?
And at first, it feels very scary at first, and it's very unsure. And it had to be really checking in, and I felt like just because everything had to dismantle, everything that is taught, learned, adopted, everything had to dismantle. And so that's why I'm like, if I had to scrub a toilet, I had to scrub a toilet. That was like the mindset I had to get into, that I am valuable, or that I can do this. And then it became, I'm valuable and I can do the things, like I can do the things that I was doing in my corporate job. I can still do it, not in a corporate setting. I can do it for myself. So I started having clients that were willing to pay the executive assistant. And then that started building my confidence even more, and my worth and value. And as that grew, now I'm doing like multi accounts for high end coaching, spiritual connectors, consultants, things like that, doing all their marketing, their branding, their business development, trusted by some very prominent, amazing women and companies in
Yeah.
this province across North America even. It's amazing. I look back and I never would have thought that was possible. I just needed that nudge to get in there. Yeah, just
Well,
get in.
and be grateful that you're young when you got the kick,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you had to get, like if you were like, say a couple years older than you are now, and then you got the kick, right?
Yeah.
And you got the whole family, you got the more like, right? And you're going, oh my gosh, I thought I was coming into retirement,
Right.
not starting over.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I always go back to that saying of Colonel Sanders started at 67. He was getting his old age security when he started current like KFC. So
AFC. Mm-hmm.
it's never too late, right? To
Absolutely.
And so as that business started, you also like evolved,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yes.
now you're into the travel. Because well,
Yes.
if I'm doing this for the clients, I may as well get my license because I then they pay me too.
Right. So a lot of my clients, being spiritual consultants, coaches, they wanted to do retreats and they wanted to do events and high-end events. We were having events in Tampa, Florida, bringing like 20 women to this week-long business retreat. And they were looking like the hotels we're booking at, the places we wanted to go, needed a travel agent. And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to also expand my skills. So I became a travel agent so that I can put together or I can capitalize on events that I'm already putting together, and got my travel agent certification, registration, and doing that as well. So I love planning events. I've been a huge traveler myself, so it got to tie in all the extra bits and exciting parts of me into the same business. So even though I am a marketing agent and a
Mhm.
travel agent, I found a way to put it together and just provide that service to my clients, and I love it.
Well, and it also helps your clients out because you're taking
Yeah,
up that middle person.
yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
need to go to that travel agent to look up flights and hotels. You can go on, get in your system and do it on your own.
Hmm.
That's powerful. And not I think, I realize as we're coming out of the last few years, people are starting to say, like, what do I really need? What do I really want? Do I want to grow my business in the way I've been trying? Because is that a struggle? Well, what about if I come over here, hire Crystal, and say, oh, look at all the fancy ideas she has for me.
Hmm.
And it's going
Hmm.
to take in a whole different direction.
Hmm.
And let's just go back to scrubbing toilets,
Yeah.
because I also know that you're into housing. How did you get into the rental market? Like to have
Well, again, it just happens by circumstance, I think. And it's just that next step of growth for me so that I can either stay as is or I can grow. So I started in the housing market late because I was divorced and needed a property. So I got a property, and it was in a place where I didn't necessarily want to live, and my son was struggling. And so it was just this opportunity to rent it out instead and move where I wanted to go. I stayed there for 5 years, and like I said, things weren't great in the area we were and in the school that my son was going,
Mhm.
and it was just ready to step up to the next next level. And that's even why how the name of the business, Step by Step Business Solutions, because everything is just a step,
the next step.
just the next step. How do
Yeah,
you get to the next step? Like, sometimes you don't need to see the whole staircase, you just take
yeah.
the next step. And so the next step was then to logically rent out the place and move where we wanted to move. So that, again, wasn't my plan. It wasn't on my
Well, I
radar. I
know,
had
but
to get
and
blunt about
I don't, I want people to realize like this isn't an easy thing,
Mhm.
right? Because there's lots and lots of people, whether choice or whatever, never in their lifetime will own a house, they'll own multiple,
Right. Mhm.
right? And so, and I'm not going to say it's luck because it's not, because it's just like this, right? The preparation you've done made the opportunity come to you.
Absolutely, Adele. When I started even buying the first one, I didn't have very good credit. And um, when I was divorced, we didn't have good credit together. I had to rebuild everything. And it took
Mhm,
some serious sacrifice and decisions to get to that point.
mhm.
And if you want to hear the hard struggle, like the reality of it versus just, it's all easy peasy. I moved back in with my mom and
Mhm.
she helped for a few years while I got back under my feet and was able to save and just to be able to have that opportunity. So sometimes we have to take the sacrifices and choose the things that may not feel good to get the steps that we need to take later
But
on.
mind you,
So,
and I think that's even a interesting point. By taking the sacrifice of moving back in with your mom, that's
mhm,
a North American thing.
right. It so is.
A different culture would be like,
Yeah,
what are you talking about? That's not a sacrifice. Of course you
right.
move home,
And it's
right?
funny, you, like repeated that back because it wasn't like in the end, it's not a sacrifice. It's not like, oh, living with my mom. It was
And
a
it's
thing.
so much better for your son because you're
Yeah.
busy being a parent.
Yes.
They're busy learning
Mm,
from your mom's generation,
right. Right.
right?
Yes. So it's
Because
funny. You're right.
we
Mhm,
as the kids get the leftover after the day,
mhm.
where grandparents just get the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you
Absolutely.
go work, you go, I'm just gonna play, we're gonna snuggle, we're gonna
Mhm,
have grandma and son grandson time,
mhm.
right? And so I think that gives you a different perspective when you're like working with your clients of marketing. Like, okay, so what is that goal? Right?
Mhm.
And it's even with my own clients, it's like, okay, you're at point A, you know you want to get to point D. Well, there's 4 steps there, or is there 1,000 steps?
Yep. Mhm.
Right?
And sometimes it happens quickly, and sometimes it's A to C, then to A minus, then to
Yes.
like B,
Right.
and regardless, overall, I keep looking back at the progress. So in the end, sometimes felt like 5 steps ahead, 3 back, but I'm
Yeah.
still 2 steps ahead,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things. And a lot more wiser and a lot more um confident. Like the things that I've learned have all become new tools under my belt
Yeah.
to give me the next steps of success. I feel like they're all part of the lessons that I needed to learn um, to get to where I wanted to go.
Well, and it's really interesting how, like, with getting your license for travel, like 20 years ago, I didn't even know that was an option,
Hmm.
right? Because I was doing what you're doing.
It's fun,
Didn't
isn't
even
it?
know it was an option.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was getting different perks. I was getting, like nice upgrades and free whatever. And that was great. And I was very grateful for it. I was like, wow, this just opened up my eyes to a whole different. But I mean, we all evolve, right? And if that was my path, that would have happened.
Hmm.
But that wasn't my path.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and so yeah, and so going back to like, what advice would you have or learnings that you could share as a single mom
Hmm.
going, it's more than just putting food on the table,
It is. It is.
right?
I did a lot of shifting past my divorce, and we divorced young. My son was still under 1 years old, and it really had me do a whole redesign of my whole life. And that was more than just career. That is in how I acted, how I showed up, what
Mm-hmm.
the reality of the life that I had created, and taking a hard look on it. So it's been 14 years of deconstruction and
Mhm.
reconstruction, because it's just as much as deconstruction, unprogramming some of the beliefs, thoughts that have been adopted along the way, whether that is by family, friends, society, culture, all that kind of things. Even just like you said, North American culture, how
Yeah.
it's frowned upon to have we go back home like you failed. So some of
Yeah.
it is just reframing the opportunities as gifts and blessings, that how lucky am I that I have this support. Some people don't have parents to lean on. They don't have
Yeah.
family around. They have nothing but themselves. And in the end, like we all figure it out and make it work. And kudos and congratulations to you to figuring it out
Yeah.
and making it work. And I mean, I was just determined to not be homeless, to have put a roof over head for my son and I
Yeah.
was going to do whatever it took. So that tenacity is something that I I so appreciate about myself, and it's something I've learned that I didn't know that I had. So
So
it
do
was
you
just,
think, sorry, do you think you would have had that tenacity if you didn't have your son?
I don't think so. So um I don't. Even my son is a bigger blessing than just being a spawn of me. He
Yeah.
has been the biggest blessing of me wanting to be the best person I can be, and in healing some of my past wounds, things that I've experienced that I have done, so that he has a better opportunity, so that he has a chance to have the best life possible. So every time
Hmm.
I grow, it's a generational absorbing for him to learn something new and different, or to learn something how to be his best self.
Yeah.
His little eyes are watching all the time. And now
Yeah.
he's 14 years old and he's like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. Mom works from home and, she does these things. And now he's trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up, when he's, of that age. And so much more has been open to him. It's not the normal choices of doctor, lawyer, fireman, police officer, things like that. It's like, oh, maybe I can be a business owner, maybe I can be an entrepreneur, maybe I can, he's considering going to get his trade ticket. But with that, he doesn't know, do I want to be on the tools? Do I want to be a project manager? Do I want to run my own business? And so
Or at all.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
seeing
So do you
opportunity.
come from do you come from an entrepreneurial background?
Nope. In fact, very opposite and very different. And
Okay.
um, I admit there's some family members that are still even continued to be fearful to this day of like, Crystal, why don't you go get a real job? And they're scared of the uncertainty of it all. And um, I've actually come to realize that security doesn't come from a job. I create my security. So
Yes.
security is actually not in a job at all. They got rid of me like that. And then I had nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So it wasn't secure. The belief that a job is secure is actually totally false and a myth. I
Well,
create my
and it's interesting because it was just like you, I was like, oh, now what? Right? Because the 2x4 smacked you. And I said, well, I'm still planning on flexing today. I'm gonna
Mhm.
go do what I was planning. And so I went to my happy space in the park by the river, and I'm just like, well, you didn't really want to be there anyway. So what's
Mhm.
next? Right?
Right.
And so you take that time and you process and you're like, well, what is there for me? And so unlike you, I grew up with all entrepreneurs,
Oh, wow.
like grandparents, like all the way
Amazing.
back, right? And so and but then like they didn't want me to struggle. They wanted me to, get the corporate job. And I'm like, so I did. It was painful,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And then it would be like, oh, okay, this isn't working. Like I like who I work with. I like what I'm doing. But the fact that I had to be there at this time and leave at that time and get, I was like,
Mhm.
no, It
And to
wasn't,
some people it works. And there's nothing wrong with the corporate job, but to some people, it's like square peg, round hole.
I
It's
know, but corporate
big.
has changed,
It
right?
has. Thanks for the
They
last couple years
they
of
they are
change.
coming around to say,
Yes.
okay, well, we have this round peg and we want to keep this round peg.
Mhm.
So how can we become more round? How can we say, okay, only come in the office 3 times a week?
Mhm.
Yes, we'll set you at home, up at home too. So when you're at home and you can't sleep, you can work anyway, right?
Yeah. I
But then
love the
I've also seen managers say, like when they hand you the phone, now I own you.
mm,
No, you don't. It gets turned off,
mhm, mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and it's all changing, just like as we're changing as entrepreneurs, and being, I believe being a woman entrepreneur is different than a man.
Okay, how come?
Because we still have that conditioning of you're supposed to be raising a kid.
Mm,
So that's why we're entrepreneurs. So we
mhm,
can go to the PTA meeting, right? Um, Men still have that boys club. I don't know if you have it so much in your city, but here still is some of that boys club, right? That even though the boys club are all owned by women, which is hilarious, that cracks me up when I heard that. Um, right? So it's like, well, like, okay, so just look at travel, for instance, right? When the odd flight attendant came on and was male, there was always whispers, we must be gay.
mm, yep.
And I'm like, why would you say that? Well, males don't want to be a flight attendant. I go, why not?
Mhm,
Right? And so it's just, we're still like learning to let go of those boxes, those
mm,
conditions, those,
yeah.
right? And so that's what I love about, with your son. It's like he's already going, well, I could do this and I can do that and I can do
Mhm,
this. And you're going, you can have it all.
yep.
And you can.
Mhm.
And women can have it all. You just can't have it all at the right moment, at the same time, sometimes,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. I completely agree. I love the adaptation and the transition that society is shifting to.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's one of the best things that has come out of these last 3 years of, I don't even want to say,
Yep.
it's just been
Chaos.
the last 3 years of upheaval.
Yep.
And I think it kind of believe this is what society needed to shift
We
things and change
absolutely
things.
needed it. And we got to remember, not to go into all the craziness of it, we have never been in this position ever as humanity,
Hmm.
ever.
Yep. Right.
So, yes, we can read the history books of what happened in the Great Depression or in the Spanish flu or in whatever. We have never been here. Those
Right.
are
Not
maybe
on this.
guideposts,
Uh-huh.
those, right? But I mean, as a wayshore of the new world, it's absolutely about working from our hearts, not our heads.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
um when people are like, you're disconnected, it's not out there.
Hmm.
It's in here. The
Absolutely.
head thinks they're going here and the heart's going, no, we're going over there. It's like, can we align, please?
Yeah. There is a big disconnect. And even I still see it shifting today because there is a lot of discontent and anger that is still has we still experience a lot of division in this world. And as things shift and change and pivot, you see people's past beliefs or their current state of minds. And so it's gonna take a bit to settle up, but any change comes with this upheaval first before it settles down. And sometimes
Yeah.
it gets worse before it gets better. So I love
And I
seeing
truly believe the worst is over,
Mhm.
but the better's just like inching, not stepping.
Mhm. Mhm. So some
Right?
patience and tolerance
Yeah.
as we're shifting to something that's entirely new and foreign.
Yeah.
Who's built companies that are hybrids? Companies have done things for this way for decades, and now all of a sudden they have to pivot and shift. They have to figure out what's working. They need to figure out how to still keep their lights on and their business running, their profits.
Yeah.
I understand it from a business perspective. Like, why have a business if you're not being profitable in it? So they have things to figure out too. And now the employees have a say, and um they're starting to be recognized for their parts in the business, and it's great to see these shifts and pivots, and I look forward to seeing more of this. Like,
Well,
we are by no means done.
oh no, and that was another thing in an article I read, was that um we've never had 4 generations in the same company. Like, think of the vast knowledge. Like, the old timers that are the CEOs and the upper management, they're gone, well, these kids, like, and they're like, but we don't have to do it the hard, long way. Like, look at all
Mhm.
these tools that we can use. And they go, do, 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 do.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't know what you're doing, but thank you for the report. Right. But it's understanding that if we work together, we're always better.
Mhm.
So
And
so we're diverging. So I'm going to bring us back.
okay,
So in your step-by-step business solutions, what are you finding um, since the opening of it to now? Like, how have your clients shifted? How are requirements changing for marketing?
at first the company was very much about being more of this virtual assistant, I would say, if I was to put a label on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was helping my clients become very successful in their events, in their marketing attempts. They often drove the bus themselves. They were the
Mm-hmm.
driver of the campaigns. They knew what they wanted, but they really just needed this workhorse to get it done. And I quickly shifted and figured it out very quickly as to what works, follow the analytics. I'm this techie geeky nerd, though I have very spiritually based. I love numbers and figuring out this analytics and the techie stuff, and
Yeah.
really figured out what is working. And not only that, what are the people asking for? Like, what works not just profitably, but like what actually shifts people? Because my clients, like I said, coaches, consultants, and though they are driven by money, they're driven by results too, is seeing people actually get it, making that shift, that change, being that new light in the world. That really fills them up. So I encompassed my personal development backgrounds, life coaching stuff as well. And I really began to understand how people were driven, what they needed, the best way to market to them, and it's all about relationships now. It is not about buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. It's not
Oh,
like shoving it down your throat anymore. Nobody likes the used car salesperson. It's about relationships. Get me, like, understand me, what I need. If
yeah.
I don't need your service, I pass. And we're all about aligning to the people that actually need the service, and they get as much benefit from the results as the person delivering the service. And so when it's all a big win and alignment like that, like, everybody's happy, and it's such a beautiful success. So it's really changed in marketing now, and understanding the difference of that is huge. So it was shifted from virtual assistant to now I run the marketing campaigns. I'm the one that's giving the advice. And now I run my own marketing agency, and I do it for travel agents, actually. So
Mm-hmm.
everything's tied together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding a lot of the travel agents, they are similar to like MLN companies, in the fact that they have their own business, or they're an employee of a larger kind of a company, but they still have to network themselves. They still have to promote themselves. They're not just sitting there at a store waiting for business. They're their own entity almost.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to market. And most people don't know how to market. It's not an easy thing. And so we have now a marketing academy, and we're training travel agents how to sell. And again, it's using that relationship based marketing. It's not shoving it down their throat. It's like, it's really speaking to our audience in such a beautiful way that they come to you. Like you're like this magnet that attracts them versus jamming it down their throat.
Well, and it's interesting because I think if anything that we want to bring back from the past is that, because um, in the past it was like, especially in our province, like of Alberta, if you got the handshake, the deal's done. The office will figure out the paperwork. They didn't care. The deal was done with the handshake because my word was the law, or whatever you want to say, and it was done. Like the paperwork to get signed, you didn't worry about it. It was going to get done. All's good. But if you didn't follow through, or if you like you said, okay, I'll do this, I'll be there, and then you didn't have the follow through, you're going to go the next, whether it's the cattle drive, the oil thing, whatever it is, everyone's going to be looking at, don't work with that person. Right. And I'm happy to see that starting to come back.
Yeah.
Right. Because when, like when I was doing the travel stuff years and years ago, like I jokingly with the bellhop in Las Vegas one year, I said, oh, well, see you next year. He goes, same time. And I go, pretty much, yep. And he remembered me.
Oh, wow. Yep.
I walk in, he goes, just about to the hour. And I'm like,
right?
Pardon?
And what kind of impact did that have on you?
Well, yeah, because I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And but I mean, and that's the thing too, is like building these relationships because people aren't staying at the jobs.
Yeah.
You don't have the bellhops or the whatever staying at, the Four Seasons forever. Well, we don't have the Four Seasons, but like, you know what I mean?
I do.
But
and how impactful was that? And that's exactly what I'm talking about, leaving an impression on people's lives so that I think inherently all humans, we have this desire to be seen, to be heard, to feel special, to be acknowledged. And so he did all of that just by seeing you again the next year and remembering you. How many millions of people does he deal with? Did he deal with over a year? And he remembered you. Like, that's amazing. It makes you feel special, and everybody wants to feel that way. Absolutely.
Because even my business associate was with me, and she's like, what? And I go, we'll just smile. Right? Because I was like so shocked. Right? And but then on the other hand, like, I mean, I'm booking hotels, like, in Canada, the US, everywhere. I don't meet these people. I'm not flying in to check that they're setting up my room right, the way the trainers need them. I'm just trusting, right? And then it's great when the conference is all over and everything's done and they call you back and the hotel saying, oh, that was great. Hope you come back next year. And the speakers are going, oh my God, that was the best one ever. Like, mark that one down. I want that one next. I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm happy. Everyone's happy. As you just keep plugging along, right? Like, let's book the next one. Let's book the next one, right? And yeah, no, and it's very satisfying and gratifying too.
Absolutely. Client satisfaction is everything these days. So, and that's the biggest thing I believe with my clients. It's not about the money, though I'm not dismissing the money, because it is about making a profit. It is about, money is key to the society. You need money to live, money to put a roof over your head, money to eat.
Yeah.
It is the gateway to everything that I love and desire and want. And client satisfaction means everything to me, that the clients are happy, that it's a win-win. Like, I don't just want your money.
And that's when the money, it doesn't matter if they're paying you $1 million. If you're not jiving with the client, thank you, but no thank you.
Absolutely. I've turned down contracts where we're not in alignment. And I'm just like, I'm not the right person for you. We're not in alignment. And instead of having a lose-lose and being frustrated, and
you're not going to get the results.
It's not worth it. It's not worth my misery. It's not, the money has a higher cost than just monetary value.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, like you think about, okay, well, they're going to pay you X amount of dollars. And it's like, well, the frustration and the stress and that's going to cost my health. Yeah,
Right?
not worth it.
Health, my relationship, because I'm miserable, so I could be extra cranky, so it affects my relationship. My relationship with my son, so family, it can filter into everything, like your health, that's a big one. There's one
Mhm.
client, yeah, where I did get really sick, and I gotta cut the stress out, and the stress is not worth any amount of money.
No.
And as soon as I let that go with love and just like, you know what, this is just not a fit. I'm sure there's somebody else out there for you, and there's a better fit for me. It is amazing how quickly the universe replaced all that, and how quickly the health got better and relationships were improving again. So it showed me that it's not just about the money. And I used to have a mindset that it was like, "Ugh, I don't care about the money as long as I'm happy," but it dismissed the value of money too, and that's not the answer either.
Yeah.
It's both. It's not an either or. It
Or
it's
the
both.
cart's way before the horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. How's that going forward?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
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 like,
it's
where's my
not an either
horse?
or.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be a sacrifice. It just doesn't. It can be all of the above. In abundance in many ways, abundance of clients, abundance of money, abundance of health, abundance of
Yeah.
relationships,
Well,
experiences,
and I
learning.
think I think that's where the partnerships come in,
Mhm,
right? Like I've always been very, very prominent about keeping that Rolodex of
mhm. Not
whether it's
burning
a
bridges.
plumber, a
Yeah.
painter, like you're now on my Rolodex. Well, do you know somebody who does? I go, yeah, I do. I've used it,
I got a
no, but
guy.
yeah, I got a
Yeah.
guy, right? And I know lots of people who have hired people based on who I am.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have recommended this person,
Yeah. I
right?
actually
And
believe that's the best form of marketing when you get to the point that you are referral based, because people loved their experience of you and they're like, yeah, I got a gal, I got a guy, I got just the right person, and you're the top of mind for them. That is such a compliment. Like that's huge.
yeah,
And
and that's like I was getting away from that because I felt like, my stuff was coming up. I agree. Um, I thought, why is everyone only calling me for my Rolodex? What about me? Call me. And then I'm like, no, but I'm on my Rolodex, like, right? Like, I'm fine to share it, right? Because it's gonna come back tenfold,
yeah.
right? The more you give, the more it comes back.
Mhm.
Whether like, yeah. Anyway, um, what would be like if someone was just thinking about, do I hire somebody for marketing? Who do I go to? Like, what would you say to a potential new client of, like say like little to no budget, like here's some ideas, medium budget.
Yes, I believe there is things that we can do for ourselves, and most people just aren't tapped into it. And then there's things that we definitely need help with.
Mhm.
And most people are scared to take that step of getting somebody to help with, because it's a matter of letting go of the control and believing somebody else has your back. Is it the right person? So if you're ready to make that step, vet out people, like do your homework, no different than you're putting out a job and you're getting in resumes. Do your research on them, meet with them, make sure it's a vibe, it's a mutual vibe for you. You want somebody who has not only experience, relevant experience, I would say, understands your industry and gets the time to get to know you as well.
Mhm.
So look for that right fit of somebody. Not everybody's going to be that. Like, I'm not the right fit for everybody out there. I find I attract a certain type of client, and I'm okay with that. I used to think that, I could do this for anybody. I
No.
don't believe that's true anymore. There's just certain people that I'm a perfect fit for and others that I'm not, and I wish them well with whoever their fit is. And there's just things that you can do yourselves. And most of the time, this is the biggest one. most of the thing that's getting in the way is people's confidence. So they actually know what to do. They're just too scared to do it. They know they need to post more on social media. They know they need to send out more emails. They know they need to network. They know they need to go attend that event and talk to people. They know they need to sign up for that booth at the trade show. They know they need to go to the the ladies network marketing,
Yeah.
whatever. They know the things. They talk themselves out of it. They get too scared to do it. Oh my God, what will I say? And so I find the beginner people that aren't ready for the budget to hire somebody is just do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. If get your muscles flexing to make those scary things possible. Start putting yourself out there, get on podcasts, talk to people. Like honestly, it's all about that.
Yeah.
They're not just going to be sitting at home and it's just not going to magically poof end up in your living room. You have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So the best ways, excuse me, are getting on social media. And it's not about just promoting your products. This is about them seeing you, the authentic you, like talk more about you. Like we're having this authentic conversation. It's beautiful. I'm not sitting here pitching you my company and here's my services and this is why you should hire me, like it's just you getting to know me. And
well, and honestly, that's kind of why I was guided to do this, was because I was looking for the authentic conversation, right? I was looking for just people to talk to, like kind of inch out after, being in my basement for too long. And I'm like, well, I need people. Where do I find my people? Well, I'll invite them. And I've invited people that I have not brought on the podcast because I was like, we had our initial conversation. And I was like, wow, that was crickets, right? How can I have a whole podcast when there's crickets after 10 minutes, right? But, so it's in that trust also. And so back to the marketing for a second, like I was on a call with a different marketing person, and he was advising to this guy that, yeah, you could hire somebody to do your analytics or to research different ways to do your product. He goes, that part of it, I would never market out. They can take what you find and market that. He goes, but they're not going to know that gut response of, ooh, that's a good word, or ooh, that's a good avenue, right? Take your research and let them help you funnel it, figure it out. But the research, he says,
yeah,
you kind of got, that's what he goes, to me as a marketing professional, that's a personal gut thing. He goes, I've had companies market it out to me, but it's after 3, 4, 5 campaigns that he's like, you do water slides? Why did you tell me that? And then they had this thing, built this huge park because the company did water slides and he didn't know they did water slides. Right? So you don't know what you don't know until someone kind of goes, what is this?
Right.
What's going on? Right?
Yeah. There's a few things that you can do if you are on a DIY budget. It's really get clear about who you serve, who you want to serve. So most people will say, I can serve anybody. And I really challenge you to reframe that or think of that differently. You don't serve everybody. Would you serve a homeless man on the street? Would you serve a Donald Trump? You don't serve everybody. You are looking for an ideal client that you're as excited to work for as they're as excited to work with you. So get really clear on that. And like this is the foundation that I start with any of my clients. I say it's like building a house. So it's the foundation, it's the bottom. And if you aren't solid on that, you can build whatever fancy framed 3, 4, 5 bedroom, 6 bathroom, paint whatever splashy colors and put whatever furniture you want. If the foundation
Yeah.
cracks, your house is crumbling, it's falling down, it's crashing. So it does not matter without your foundation. And it really starts with your ideal client. I think of it like Apple does it the best, where they don't sell, they actually, if you watch their marketing, we really analyze it, because they don't sell iPhones or iPads. It's not really what they sell. What they sell is an experience.
Yeah.
I seen their commercial, and these kids are running around and they're acting really crazy, or they're in the car and they're like, when are we gonna get there? When are we gonna get there, Mom?
Yeah.
And they just hand them the iPad and it's just quiet. And the parents are like, oh, breathe a sigh of relief. And
Yeah.
then they're showing another clip where the family's all gathered around the iPad and they're watching a movie, and they're showing the togetherness and the bonding of the family. And in other examples as well, it shows that this is the experience of what an iPad creates. So
Well,
they're
I
not saying,
know,
buy
but
my iPad. They're saying, here's the experience.
but here's the other side of the coin, because you're younger, right? All of us older ones are going, but they're missing out on the best part of the family trips.
Mm-hmm.
Part of
Yeah.
the family trips were the scrapping of the kids in the backyard
Well, you
or
would
in
see
the
it
back.
that way.
Huh?
You would see it that way. And as this generation who are buying the iPads, because again, you're then not their ideal client. Their
No, I know,
ideal
but so it was just really interesting, because I was
yeah.
listening. It was actually Rob Lowe's podcast, and he was saying, but that trip with my parents, when we're shoved all in the car and we're just like, we're driving how long? He goes, my boys missed that.
Yeah.
And I hurt for that they missed that. And it was funny because he says, like, there's, I don't know, one of his boys did something, and he said, well, we'll go to the dollar store. And his son wanted the hand receiver for his iPhone, because he's never experienced the phone on the wall. And he was just like, this is crazy how one experience we hated because the phone was stuck to the wall. And they're like, but I want to hold something. I don't want to just have my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and that, I mean, that's like not even a huge generation difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like 10 years, 15 years max. And it's like, wow.
But
Like
even
that's
how
not,
you're explaining that, you'll see how different people have different perspectives. And that's why we're saying in marketing is that not everybody's your ideal client, because some
yeah,
will be like, bring back the rotary, and some are like, oh my God, let's get every accessory possible for these iPhones. This is where it's at,
yeah,
So when they do their research, they very much target to the people that they want to buy their products and all their bits and pieces for it. And that's not going to be everybody. And there's still, like, with the section that they're targeting is going to be millions of clients. So it's okay that you don't cater to everybody. It's okay that they don't have that experience.
yeah,
It's okay that he wants to bond with his boys, and this one wants the piece with the iPad. Every experience is okay. Just get very clear on who it is you want to be served, and be okay that it's going to leave some people out, because there is enough abundance in the people that you serve. There is
yeah.
like this.
Well, and even Steve Jobs himself didn't want the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, why? People aren't going to want that.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept on telling the team, no, 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 and they did it anyways. They said he's wrong. they want it, right? So his whole marketing team says, we're not listening to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, yeah, like it's fascinating, and that's where it's coming back full circle to make the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like not everyone on this world is going to be your friend. Not everyone in this world in marketing is going to be the best fit for your company. We have to find who works with us the best.
Right. And have peace in that, and
Yeah.
have peace in the ones that aren't a fit. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it bad. It's just
No.
not a fit. And I wish them well. And it's okay to have diversity. It's okay to have differences of opinion. I learn from things like that. Maybe there is a different way. Maybe I can learn more from that. Maybe I can expand my context and learn from that experience. my way is not the holy gospel way. Like, that is not what this is. Like, it's just what works for me and my soul and my makeup and who I am as Crystal. And it's gonna be different than you, Adele, different
Mhm.
than the viewer that's watching this right now. Like, we are all different and unique, but that's the way we were made. So celebrate that and find your people and to be okay with who the universe puts in front of us. So it's interesting
Well,
that we
and yeah, and it's like the person, like you might be the perfect person for this task on this
yeah.
campaign.
Mhm.
And 6 months from now, no, not the right person.
That's
And
right.
you're like,
Maybe you
yay,
grow,
like,
you've learned.
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you're doing it yourself now. I just needed that catalyst person to help me. Maybe like
Yeah.
there's so many scenarios. And um I just find when we say attached to being right or attached to it being only this way, that's what gets us into trouble. So just being
Well,
adaptable and willing to.
and that's the difference between the debate team and an argument.
Mm-hmm.
The debate team sees all sides.
Right.
They debate. Right?
Yeah.
An
Right.
argument's going, you're wrong, I'm right. Let's
That's
go.
right. That's right. Absolutely.
Oh, that's funny.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out the right wording of if we had to sum up this beautiful conversation of corporate entrepreneurship, mom, right? Other than following your heart, being you, I'm throwing it in your court to sum it up.
Ah.
Market it, girl. No.
It's it's an interesting experience because I'm dealing with a couple of people personally to my heart that are in the middle of transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship, and the difference of what your heart says to head, and when we can get those two in alignment. And I believe firmly it's a lot about the scripting that we've been told and's been passed on to us, whether you grew up in an entrepreneur family or not, that this is bad, this is good, this is wrong, this is right. And if you can unattach from those and figure out what works for you and what's in your heart, knowing that in the end you can always change your mind.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm an entrepreneur now, and if, say, I lost everything tomorrow, like, I can go get a job. I could, it's possible now.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever permanent. And all I can say is that most people's dreams didn't come true by not trying anything. So go after it if that's what you feel.
Well, and just to add to that, doesn't mean you have to do all or nothing.
Right.
You can have that corporate job and do some side stuff,
Mm-hmm. There's nothing
right?
wrong with a side hustle. Dip your toes
Yeah.
in, see if you like it.
Yeah.
There'll become a tipping point when it's like, okay, I'm ready to go all in. This feels scary as all heck, but I'm willing to do it. And I kind of tell my clients, I'm like, if it doesn't make your butt clench a little bit, it's not
Yeah.
like, that's the sign to me that I'm like, I'm on to something. It's like, ooh, like these feelings inside of me. I don't know if I'm going to throw up or like
Yeah. And
excited. That's it.
not everyone is designed to be entrepreneurs.
100%. We make it sound so glorious. It
It's,
doesn't mean that everything's perfect. I have to
it's
self-motivate.
lots of hard work.
Is
It's lonely.
it's me, myself, and I. And it's me. I have to depend on me. It's like I don't get a paycheck just because. I have to work for it. So I mean, I have to self-motivate. I have to figure everything out myself. And like you said, a key one, it can be lonely. It really
Mhm.
can. And at first I kind of liked that. I'm an introvert. I'm like, oh, I don't mind that. And the loneliness, I can easily talk my brain can talk myself out of things. Oh, it's okay, do that tomorrow. Or, oh, you don't really need
Well,
that.
and it's also like when I first left corporate, I was like, oh my God, I've been sitting all day.
Mhm.
Like you forget how much you run to the mailroom, or you run to get photocopies, or you run
Mhm.
to,
Get coffee.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that too, right? But it's just like, or you're in the lunchroom area, and you have that quick fun conversation, you laugh, and then you go back to work, and you're
Mhm.
like, whoa, I haven't had any interaction for a week,
Mhm. Mhm. It is.
right? So
It is definitely lonely. That actually is probably one of the biggest killers of entrepreneurship is the loneliness. People don't realize it or talk about it enough. And so that's why I do, even though I'm introverted, I do force myself to be on podcasts, to go to the networking events, to show up to events, even though sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to. But then when I go, it's amazing who I connect with. And I need to put myself in those positions and stretch outside of my comfort zone. And so that's like the biggest things about entrepreneurship is that you have to be self-aware to push yourself and to you don't have a boss over you. You don't have deadlines like that. You don't have other people making you accountable. You don't have a coworker relying on you. And if you don't do it, you could be fired.
yeah,
So sometimes
well, yes and no, because we do have the deadlines with clients. We do have,
with
like,
clients,
you still have to produce what you
right,
say you're going to produce. It's just
right.
it's a different pressure.
It's
But
different. Mhm.
and in saying that, the rewards,
Mhm.
you can't put a price on the rewards.
For me, yeah, being this fiery Sagittarius, I need the adventure, I need the diversity. I like to have the multitasks. I love that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
it works for me.
yeah.
And it doesn't
Or how
work
many plates do you have in the air today?
you don't want to know
I
how
get
many.
you, Sag.
To most people it'd be like, oh, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh, I love it. So
Yeah.
it's you know, I also find that like just be okay with you, like with really what you need. And a lot of people just want to fit in that box so that they
Mhm.
have the acceptance and love by family, by friends, by society, they're doing it right.
But
Honest,
but then, like, out of anything I've learned in the last couple of years, is absolutely honor where people are at.
Mhm, mhm. I agree.
We only know our journey. We don't know everybody else's journey. We have to do our journey,
Mhm.
right? And and it's it's not an argument, it's not a fight. It's just like, I honor you
Yeah,
and where you're at. If
absolutely.
things change, you know how to find me. If they don't change, it was nice knowing you.
Yeah, wish you well. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think some of that is forgotten these last few years. It's been an interesting experience. Let's put it that way.
Or people are waking up to it. Like,
Mhm.
it's like, how we started the conversation about, um, you just don't care to do what you don't want to do anymore. Like,
Right.
you just like, it was great, but yeah, my energy's not going there. I feel it has to, go over here, and that's all good. And honoring, truly honoring what our hearts needing and calling for. Like, it could be the best Christmas party ever. And you're like, no, it's going to be the best book in a hot bath,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that's what my soul's needing. That's what my heart's calling for.
Right. It's well worth it to take the time to get to know yourself. And I touched on it before, but that's like part of these last 14-year process is what does Crystal need and what makes my heart sing in business and personal, like what I do in one area, I do in everything. So
Mhm.
if I'm not taking care of myself, I am nothing to my clients. I am not available to them or my son or in my relationships or friendships. So it taking care of yourself and really honoring what I need, being okay that I know society thinks that I'm crazy sometimes, but what I need is to have multiple things on the go, or else I get bored and I lose interest and unmotivated. And
Yeah.
that doesn't work. So,
And then you're not happy with anybody. But, and so this is like, I heard it in a different way. One of the coaches I've worked with was saying, never, ever, ever give from your cup,
mm,
always from the saucer.
yeah, I
And I
love
was
it.
like, I love that,
I
right?
love Mhm.
Because it's true. Like our cup can go up and down with our own stuff, but if it's always from the saucer, it's all good.
Mhm.
That
That's
that's there for the taking, the giving, and people may fill up your saucer. Great, awesome,
Mhm.
you know. So once again, Crystal, it's
Thank
been
you.
awesome. And her company again is Step by Step Business Solutions. Yes,
Thanks for having me on the show. I loved having this conversation. I love when people were real, just authentic and real.
that's why it's authentic conversations. Thanks.
Perfect.